You're listening to your Internet Bestie.
Happy New Year, my dudes. I'm Kat, your Internet Bestie, and welcome to episode 4 of the only podcast which is truly out of this world. Whether you are a frequent flyer of the alien gang or have just crash landed here by some cosmic accident, you are in the right place. This is your cozy spaceship where we talk all things mental health, recovery, being neurodivergent, and just those big, wonderful feelings that can sometimes make us feel like we are aliens. Welcome aboard. Now, to those of you just listening, allow me to set the scene. I am, as always, in bed, surrounded by posters and plushies. Yes, I have redecorated. It is now even more chaotic and colourful than it was before. I have a new jelly cat. This is Pushkin the potato. I love him so much. We look very alike. And I probably should have opened with this, but I am now bold. I buzzed my head. I pulled a Britney Spears. It's now so low maintenance. Quite frankly, I wanted a change. I don't really know why I buzzed my head. It was kind of just a thing that happened. Anyway, on to the topic of today's episode: how to glow up in 2026 without burning out. Here are my credentials. And without further ado, my aliens, let's get started. Disclaimer. This episode is not going to have any toxic positivity or body punishment or anything related to drastically changing yourself and your values as a human being, because that is never going to lead anywhere good. This episode is going to be all about becoming more of who you are and not less of you to fit into some sort of box that the internet and the world has prescribed for you. Because quite frankly, if living in that clean girl aesthetic, Pilates princess vibe or whatever does not make you happy and does not make you healthy, that's not for you, and that is okay. So let's get into Chat with Kat. So first of all, what do people even mean by glowing up? I think usually when you hear glow up, you think, I want to become unrecognizable. You know, it's this idea of completely changing who you are. There's all these videos right now which are rebranding yourself, reinventing yourself, and I think that is inherently a toxic mindset to have. I like the idea of change. I personally think, not to get deep here, but the meaning of life, in my opinion, is to change and to be changed. But changing yourself in such a drastic way that you can no longer recognize who you were originally, I think is never going to do anything positive for you. That was so, oh my gosh, get me into a philosophy program. That was, wow, Kat, incredible. Honestly, looking from the outside in, to me, glowing up nowadays seems to be quite an angry thing. I feel like we focus so much on the opinions of other people that we lose ourselves in that process, because it's all about avenging ourselves because this person broke up with us or they didn't think we were good enough. And I think it's obviously good to want to become a healthier, happier version of yourself, but doing that for the wrong reasons is not going to be helpful. So in this first section, I want to talk about what kind of goals you actually need to set to have that kind of sustainable growth in your glow up, because I think glowing up is incredible. I have nothing against glowing up. I have nothing against aesthetic goals for glowing up. I just think that they need to be done for the right reasons, and that is all in the planning. Chasing things like numbers is the first thing I'm going to say is an absolute no. Don't measure your worth based on your follower count, on your weight, on the hours that you went running this week. Don't measure your worth based on numbers, because that is never going to be helpful to you. You know, if you start at the beginning of the year and say, I want to read 100 books, you're not going to read 100 books. You're going to get to June and you'll have read, 3 books, and you'll say, I can never do this, and you'll give up. So instead of saying, I want to be the person who reads 100 books, say that you want to be a reader. It's so much more difficult to put these actions that are completely foreign into action if you don't have that kind of baseline. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my head. So if you don't have the habits of a reader, you're not going to be able to read 100 books in a year, you know? A reader, contrary to what Book Talk likes to show us, is not usually the most aesthetic person in the world, but they'll have a book that they really enjoy and they will read it. And you don't have to read all the classics. You don't have to read really, intellectual books. You can read trashy romance books. You can read, anything that you want to. You can read the Guinea Pig magazine, and you can use the code #CatTheCucumber for 10% off any of your orders. Oh, look at me getting a bit of a self-promo in there. Anyway, so yeah, you need to read things that you enjoy, and so that kind of principle applies to so many habits and so many different things, because you're never going to achieve your goals if it's not something that you enjoy the process of. So in that kind of sense, when you are setting your goals, whatever it is, I can't tell you what goals you want to have, but you need to be able to make realistic goals. And instead of having these kind of I want this, I want this, I want this, it's more like I want to become this. if that makes sense. I like to make a vision board every single year, and for my 2025 vision board, I haven't made my 2026 one yet. I have the pictures, but I'm going to do it later today because it's a whole project. I like to cut everything out and make a cute collage, but anyway.
That is a lie. I'm still yet to make my vision board because my printer is broken.
I have kind of pictures of myself at my happiest. I want to become the happiest and healthiest version of myself, so having pictures where that is the case is really inspiring to me. So there's also a picture of little cat, just little quotes that make me smile, and I think the whole process of making a vision board and that kind of like creative process of, you know, choosing these really like important things to you and putting them together is really therapeutic, and it can be really helpful. I also have literally my entire room as kind of a vision board. I've recently redecorated. Let's see. This is my wonderful poster wall. So I've got loads of new pictures and memories because my old wall was full of photos from when I was still unwell, because yes, they were positive memories, but I have made so many more new ones, and I wanted to add those to my wall, so I can give you a bit of a poster wall tour. You can't really see. So this is the film poster from a film that I did this year. I got highly commended in a film competition, so that's pretty cool. This was me at the Halloween party at my school dressed as an avocado. I won Best Dressed. This is my 17th birthday, smiling absolutely ear to ear at pizza, which is, you know, Cat 2 years ago, panic attacks. But this year, like, joy. Last year, oh my god, 2025 was last year, insane. There's more just like happy moments, lots of piggies, me being on stage, like here's me on the stage door of a West End stage, and I have a stage door sign on my vision board. Like, things come true from this stuff, you know. If you actively want these things to happen and you actively put in the work for these things to happen, they will happen. I think I'm talking about myself too much. Anyway, in terms of making things like a vision board, the danger, I think, is always to create these standards of like this perfect life that are really unattainable in the time frames that you have. Like, I can't realistically put on my vision board that I want to, I don't know, fly to the moon, because that's not going to happen this year, you know, no matter how hard I try. Not that I really want to fly to the moon. I feel like that would be a lot of, like, unfriendliness to the planet. So when you're setting your goals, you want to find things that are attainable for yourself in the here and now, and that don't put pressure on you, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. I did some like researchy stuff, and basically like shame-based motivation, so being like,
oh, you're so ugly, you need to like lose weight or whatever.
Like, that's what I've been seeing recently on the internet, which is not my favourite thing. I really don't like this kind of increase in skinny culture that we're seeing. Anyway, but that kind of shame-induced, like, oh, you have to do this because of this, because you're awful, because you're terrible. That kind of self-deprecating talk is just going to increase your stress levels, because you're going to be disappointing yourself, which is the worst person to disappoint. That increases your cortisol, and cortisol is like the stress hormone. And high cortisol leads to burnout, low energy. It leads to, I think, an increase in ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, and that can lead to then cycles of binge eating, and especially with my audience, I know who a lot of you have struggled with eating disorders, that can then lead into like binge restrict cycles. So obviously you don't want to end up in a place where you put so much pressure on yourself that you end up, you know, having that kind of reverse effect where it's too much pressure and it sends you spiraling, because this needs to be sustainable and something that you can maintain. If a goal makes you hate yourself, it is not sustainable, and you are not going to be able to hate yourself for the rest of your life and be happy and healthy and glowing, you know. If the goal is to glow up, we want to glow up internally as well, and not just physically. I think in this world where a lot of our worth is based off of appearances, it's so natural to have aesthetic and physical and like body goals, because appearance seems to be kind of all that matters, you know. It's not. I really promise you that it is not. People care way more about who you are as an individual, about your skills and about your personality than the way that you look. Like, I promise you that focusing too much on how you look is only ever going to hold you back. A lot of people on their vision boards will have this like the classic like workout set with the toned abs and the matcha. I love matcha, by the way. We need to stop being mean about people who drink matcha, because I love matcha. Matcha is so good. Why do I look like a ghost right now? Can I change the lighting, please? But in terms of setting these goals, like, I want to be skinny. Do you actually want to be skinny? We all have our own uniquenesses, and that is what makes us beautiful individuals, and that's what makes us iconic aliens, my dudes. I'm getting passionate about this, because I think the whole idea of wanting to be skinny comes from the idea of wanting to fit in and wanting to conform and wanting to fit a box that society has built for us, and that in its own is crushing individuality. You want to be healthy. That is a completely different goal from wanting to be skinny, because the two do not have a direct correlation. Like, you can be quote unquote skinny, like someone who's really thin, and be really unhealthy. I've been there, my dudes. And you can be somebody who's not the ideal of skinny, and you can be incredibly healthy. So what I'm trying to get at, going off of my tangent, is kind of examine why you want this goal. Like, examine your motivations and think, do I want this for a reason that matters to me, or something that other people are trying to put on me, or something that I think I want to want? Because that's a very different thing, you know? Kind of being able to check in with yourself and see who you are as an individual, and maybe, like, asking yourself, what would little me want? I did gymnastics from, I think, the age of, like, 4 or 5, and I was very muscular because I was training so regularly, and I always looked different from other kids. I also have broad ribcage, wide shoulders. It's just my bone structure, and I can't change that. I'm also, like, a head taller than everybody in my class ever, because tall genes, whoa, but I would look different from these other kids, and in the moment, I don't think I really cared. I didn't think my body was a problem in the first, like, 7 years of my life, until then external people would tell me that it was, or they would make comments about it, and only then did I kind of gain a consciousness of myself, because I was always a happy, healthy child. And, you know, looking back at my pictures now, I see this happy, adorable, like, ball of life. There's all these pictures of me. When you look at any picture of me as a child, I'm doing the splits and doing handstands, and I'm doing my ballet exams, and I just look so happy. And I just know that in those moments, I wasn't worrying about the way that my body looked. I know that I was just living and existing, and I had the least amount of worries I've ever had. And I realised that that shift in my mind, that happened at the age of, like, 7, 8, 9, when kids started bullying me. You know, when people start saying, oh, why is your tummy sticking out? Or, like, oh, you shouldn't eat that makes you fat. And having these then, like, ideas that are put into your mind, it's like, oh, now I have to worry about this. And so, kind of thinking about, is this something that you actually care about? Or is this something that the world makes you think you need to care about? So some questions to you, my dudes. Does this goal make your life bigger or smaller? Does this goal bring me peace or pressure? And would this goal matter to me if no one saw me? And I spoke about that last question quite a bit with kind of the idea of, do you want this for yourself, or do you want this because of other people? And kind of just looking at all your goals, if you write yourself a little list, and then seeing, do I want this? Or do I think I want this? You know? In terms of actually achieving your goals, I think the word you need to be focusing on is consistency. Because consistency is the thing that's going to take you from doing something for one day for doing it to the rest of your life. So giving yourself a timeline with timestamps and regularly, like, checking in with yourself, whether that be journaling or just having a day where you're like, you know what, that went well, and what can I do now? What can I learn from what has just gone on for the last couple of months to help me on my goals for the next few months? It's really taking it step by step, but that being said, with routines and structure can be incredibly helpful if it's used to help you rather than to, like, cage you in, because scaffolding is, you know, it can hold you up, but you can also get trapped behind it. That was such a cool analogy, Kat. Whoa, philosophy. So don't put so much pressure on your structure that it becomes so rigid that if you were to then miss a day, or if you were to not perform to the level that you expect from yourself, that it were to make you think that you're a failure. You know, because you're not a failure. You are going on this journey, and we make mistakes along journeys, and sometimes we're not perfect, and that is okay. That makes us human. That makes us aliens. That being said, you need to find habits that you are willing to do for the rest of your life, because glowing up should not just be for summer or for whatever, like a photo shoot. Glowing up should be a permanent project of making yourself a better person. If your habits are flexible, that's when they survive real life. You know, you can't spend your entire life only eating chicken, broccoli and rice every single day, because that's not going to survive when you go on holiday and you want to join in with your friends. You need to be able to be lenient with yourself and say that you can have off days. Like, you don't have to be excelling every single day to be on track and to be, you know, improving. Improvements are slow and steady rather than like an immediate spike upwards, because if you have that sustainable, consistent, slow growth, that is always going to be more achievable and more, you know, permanent in your future than something which is an immediate, like, I'm going to do everything all at once. Consistency will always come from identity. So if you, like I was saying earlier, if you want to consistently read, you want to be a reader. This does not then completely change who you are as a human being. It just adds another layer to your personality, and that identity shift then creates that discipline and that consistency that you'll need to succeed with your goals. Okay, and back to my timeline of check-ins idea. I really think it's important to check in with yourself regularly, because it's one thing writing down all of your goals and doing a vision board at the beginning of the year, but if you kind of forget about them, then you're not going to be able to stay consistent. So I like having my vision board on my wall where I can see it, because that then constantly reminds me. It's the first thing I see when I walk in, because it's this big, ginormous rectangle of just colourful and vibrancy.
If you're also a creative person like me, but don't want the absolute sensory nightmare of using glue to cut and stick a physical collage, you can try using an app like Pinterest or Canva to make a digital vision board, and then you can either print it out or use it as your lock screen, which I've seen people do, and I think that's really cool.
A lot of us are spending so much time on our phones, on our electronic devices, so in your calendar app, if that's something that you use, or I think people use Notion, things like that, like organising apps, you can set yourself like alarms and reminders. You can send yourself emails to come to you in like a couple of months' time, maybe setting yourself a timeline like, by the end of the month, I want to have achieved this. And really, you have the final goal, but you break the final goal into steps. I mean, the year has kind of 4 quarters. So breaking down your goals by those 4 quarters can be a really useful way to keep yourself on track and to see, this is what I have and haven't achieved by March or whatever, and then see what you need to change and what you can keep, what's been going well, what needs improvement. And when you're then looking at your timeline, and then after the first month you say, hey, I'm on track and I'm doing well, you need to celebrate yourself. You need to celebrate that you have done really well with maintaining your goals. I feel like I'm saying a lot of things that make sense in my head, but it might not make sense out loud, so hopefully you just enjoy hearing my voice yap. I keep getting a lot of comments that say I have very, a comforting voice, so I guess I can just sing you guys a lullaby and go to sleep. Maybe not, Cat, maybe not. Hey dudes, I'm so sorry for the interruption and probably the change of camera angle. My camera just decided to die despite me being at full battery percentage at the very beginning of filming. It turns out I've been yapping for more than an hour. I tend to go off on these tangents. It's already complicated, my guys. Anyway, it's time to return to the actual point of the podcast.
Habits.
So addition-based habits, some that are really achievable, are the ones that are going to last you the absolute longest, especially if you don't go full force right away. I think a big mistake that people make with their habits, like I was mentioning before, is that they go all in at the beginning and then they burn out and they don't have the energy to do everything. Achieving a goal is a bit like a mathematical equation, in my opinion, and I'm not the biggest fan of maths. The teachers that I've had have not been amazing, so I'm not going to go into that kind of analytical part of it, but I really think that achieving your goal is a series of steps. It's a series of additions and a couple of subtractions along the way. So I think it really is adding those goals, those small manageable goals, and the small things, they always add up to big things. But sometimes there are going to be things that you need to take out of your life because there will be negative habits that are then impacting your ability to reach your goals. So in terms of, adding habits, if you are trying to get more rest, something that you might need to cut out is your amount of screen time or how late you stay up every night, because getting a good amount of sleep, I promise you, is honestly the biggest game changer. If you want one goal for 2026, let it be to sleep properly. As somebody with chronic insomnia, the periods of my life where I have been able to sort out my sleep schedule with medication and meditation and just sorting out my lifestyle and my pre-bed routine, those periods of my life have been the most productive and positive, because getting enough sleep, that lowers your cortisol, which is, as I was mentioning, the stress hormone. Yes, so sleep is overall just the best thing you can do. Just sleep, especially I know a lot of my viewers are teenagers, and for growing individuals, sleep is so, so important. I know that taking a step back from things can seem counterintuitive, but when you realise the things that you are stepping back from are things that have been negatively impacting your life, sometimes letting go of things is the biggest thing that you can do, and it's a really great step to help you on your journeys. I am somebody who tends to do a lot. I have a full schedule. My school at the moment is literally a 9 to 5. Drama school is so busy. But I'm doing things that I love at the same time. With doing things that I love, with being in a creative environment, literally going for a creative career, everything is so high pressure, and it is just about rehearsing. And so I do a lot of extra work in my end of year teacher term summary. My directors were saying to me, you need to do less in the new year, which is something that I hear quite a lot, honestly, especially relating to drama, but it's not something that you would really commonly hear in real life. I think a lot of people will just always assume they need to be doing more, but sometimes if you take a step back and you do less, first of all, the quality of your mental health will improve, and it can be a really positive decision for the other things that you are trying to focus on in your life. Another example of this is I have OCD, which is not an obsessive cleaning disorder. I wish it was, honestly, but I have a really hard time letting go of things. I was a competitive gymnast for so long, and I felt like I couldn't let go of it despite there being a point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore, because I had come so far with it. And I think that was honestly holding me back, because I was then missing out on things that I was like really enjoying. Like I was doing really, really, really well with my ballet as well. And now that I was taking a step back from gymnastics, I've kind of rearranged my priorities, and I'm focusing a lot more on ballet and on my acting and on filmmaking and things like that. And closing the door of gymnastics, like little me would have thought that that was the end of the world. Like I never really wanted to be an Olympic gymnast, but I always thought like gymnastics would be my thing. Like gymnastics was always like my favorite thing in the world, because I loved performing. It was always about performing for me. But I think that closing that door opened up so many more for me. And so sometimes it is about making those hard decisions and like sacrificing things. It's not necessarily sacrificing things if it's positive for you in the long run, but with making your goals, you need to choose your priorities and make sure that you're not staying stuck on something that is holding you down. I think gymnastics, when I was unwell, was really, really helpful for me, because I was in a very, very black and white mindset, and I was already starting to get a lot of auditions for acting and things, which you get a lot of rejections. You get some successes, and those successes are amazing, but then you get rejections as well. And especially when I was in such a vulnerable state physically, that obviously affected my mental health, and I ended up really being affected when I didn't get an audition, and it would like honestly tear me down for days. And obviously that's not positive, that's not good, because that's just going to keep getting me down and make me question my worth. But then having that alternative thing that I really care about, and not putting like all my eggs in one basket. So cliche. I love the word egg is my favourite word. But what is wrong with me? So like having gymnastics as like an alternative outlet to acting, it was like when I was at the gym, it was all I could think about, and I was just in my own space, and it's so refreshing to have that kind of outlet, so you know that your worth is not just on this one thing, that you have other passions and other things that you can put your mind to and focus on. Okay, so now we're going to think about some healthy glow up goals, which is probably the most important part of this episode. One of my favourite things that my therapist has ever told me is, what would it feel like to be the best version of yourself? And this honestly made me think so much. I had this discussion in my mental health journey episode, in episode 2. Go listen to that now if you haven't done that already. Or after this episode, listen to this one first, because this one is cool too. Anyway, I look dreadful in that video. The camera angle, the weird Shrek green lips. Going bald was the best decision I ever made. Anyway, moving on. Focus. Basically, I had this kind of idea when I was really unwell of actor cat being the ideal version of myself, and anorexia cat. I have now come to realise that it's okay for me to just be cat. And actor cat may be the best version of me, but to be cat is also okay. And having that black and white thinking is not helpful all the time, but I think when I was so unwell, that kind of idea that there was a certain mindset that I could be in to feel at my best, that was really helpful, because I had something to kind of strive for. But thinking about that in terms of your goals, what would it feel like to achieve the things that you want to achieve? I am actually a really firm believer in manifestation, and I used to meditate a lot, and I really think it helped me. There's like meditation manifestation things. I'm quite a spiritual person. I've got a lot of crystals. Oh my gosh, you know what was so cool? I had a crystal advent calendar from National Geographic. It's like the most childish thing in the world, but I got a new rock every day. I got a shiny rock every single day of Christmas. Like, phenomenal. Great idea for next year if any of you guys like rocks and crystals. Anyway, thinking about how you want to feel and how you would feel, because honestly, the fastest way to achieve what you want to be, especially as I was mentioning, you want to have a shift in your identity. You want to become the reader, and you don't just want to read 100 books. You want to become the reader. What does the reader feel like? Does the reader feel calm? Does the reader feel, positive? Like, what are the emotions that the reader experiences, and kind of putting those into your day-to-day life and really checking in with yourself. I think the most helpful way that you can start making progress also in your mental health is to really check in with yourself more often and get to know your body, learn what your body says to you. Okay, back to my acting analogies, but there's a book called The Body Speaks by Lorna Marshall, and she really says that, you need to be able to listen to what your body tells you, and sometimes you need to do the absolute opposite of that and really follow the opposite of what your impulse is, and sometimes you just need to follow the impulse. I think it's just learning when your body is telling you something helpful and when it might be your mind that is interfering and kind of cutting off that connection, because your body is a vessel, but it's also very intelligent, and your body will tell you if it needs things like rest, fuel, hydration, everything. Like, your body will tell you when it needs a break and when it needs more from you, if it needs to expel some energy. Like, your body will tell you things, and so being able to check in with your feelings is really, really important. It is so important to note that you do not glow up by hating yourself into change. You can have the healthiest lifestyle in the world, but if you hate yourself throughout that entire process, it's not going to be worth it in the end. Because you will think that when you achieve all the goals that you have set for yourself that you'll be happy, but I promise you that is not how it works, because there will then always be the next step where you will always think that you can be better, because at the end of the day, we always can be better. As human beings, and as the universe, we can always be better people and better individuals and healthier individuals. I think there's never really a limit to our capabilities. But if throughout that journey of trying to get to where we want to be, we hate the journey, then it's not really worth it, is it? Because you want to have this as your lifestyle, you don't just want to be like with the goal of being skinny, right? You can be in your caloric deficit for however long and reach your goal weight, but if you then go back to old habits, that's not going to be maintained.
One of my favourite analogies for this is, do you want to be an actor or do you want to act? Do you want to be a best-selling author or do you want to write? Do you want to be a world-renowned painter or do you want to paint? Are you doing this thing to become famous, or are you doing this thing because you love doing the thing? At the end of the day, if you don't enjoy the process of putting in the hard work and the repetition and the rehearsals and the pushing yourself and challenging yourself to achieve this thing, then it's not going to be sustainable for you. Your life goal can't be to run a marathon if you hate running.
It's about having a lifestyle that can be maintained, and that can come only through finding things that you enjoy and not hating yourself. You need to learn to love yourself, or at least to accept yourself and be grateful for your body and what it can give to you. I think something really useful for that can be journaling. I used to write a diary. I had a diary for like 8 years straight, and then I took a break from it because I did a lot of daily stories on Instagram. I know everyone loves those, so they are coming back, and I felt it was kind of my virtual diary, and I do a lot of online journaling with lots of creative things. Also, scheduling rest like it's an appointment. Like, you are not skipping your nap, if you have a friend who's like, hey, can you come help me clean my bedroom, but you're like, bestie, I need to sleep. Prioritize your rest and talk to yourself like you are a friend, because I promise you, your real friends only want what's best for you, and if you say that you need rest, they will tell you, go get rest, bestie. So being kind to yourself is obviously a big thing. In conclusion, I know that was very, very rambly. I hope that some of that made some kind of sense. I'm no pioneer of glowing up and habits and goals, but I will say that I have experienced a drastic amount of change in my life. I was very unwell with my eating disorder, and I was a completely different person to who I am now, mentally and physically, and I have never felt so happy, and these are the things that I have been using to help me get to a place where I feel good in myself, or at least, happy and neutral. There are obviously bad days. There are always going to be days where you feel like the world has gone to shit, but I promise you, it has not.
A structured example for what you can do.
To kind of summarize everything that I've been saying, using the example of wanting to become a reader, if your goal is to read 100 books and you have never really touched a book in your life, maybe set that goal to 30, even 20, First of all, find something that you enjoy. What books do you enjoy reading? Because you can't say that you want to start reading just because everyone else is reading. You have to start reading because you want to start reading, you like books, and it's so fine to read books that you think people would consider cringe. You can read whatever you want, honestly. I have, for Christmas, I got the Guinea Pig Nativity. I get them every single year, and it's actually bittersweet because I got the last one in the collection this year, and it's my last year, my last Christmas being a child, because this year I'm turning 18, which is too serious of an age. If your goal is to read 20 books in a year, then you can break it down into quarters, and every quarter of the year you want to have read 5 books, and if you've not reached that, you can kind of reassess and say, am I putting enough time into reading? Am I scheduling a moment of peacefulness where I'm not on my phone and I'm reading? and so that kind of helps it become more of an attainable goal. But setting really unrealistic expectations for yourself is only going to lead to burnout, and you'll read one book or half a book and then you'll give up because you think, oh, I'm never going to get to 20. You don't have to get to 20. You can read 2 books and that's still an accomplishment. It's you versus you, which again is such a cliche phrase, but I genuinely love it because I think it makes sense. Like, it really makes sense, because at the end of the day, you're living your life and the only person you need to impress is yourself. So read that book, and every time you read the book, check in with yourself. Did you enjoy that book? And find things that you like to do and reward yourself when you get to certain milestones. Be gentle with yourself. Don't label things as black and white. Don't see yourself as a failure if you only read 15 books. That is already such a huge progress, because if you read 0 books in the last year and you read 15 books this year, that is already an enormous step. And then if you now have a scheduled reading time every week, you've become a reader, my dude. Like, that is progress, you know? And it does not have to be astronomical, like I'm reading I'm reading the Bible every single week. No, it can be a page a day. It can be a sentence a day. You know, having your book by your bedside table, setting up yourself for success, you know, starting in the morning before you touch your phone. Have your phone on the opposite side of the room and have the book on your bedside table, and you read a page. And that's it. I've seen these great apps. My friend has this one where you have to, like, take a picture of grass every time you want to open your phone, like, to prove that you've been outside or whatever. It's kind of weird, but I feel like it's like the concept works. Giving yourself something to do before you end up doom scrolling, because obviously doom scrolling is like, it's ruining everyone's potential, my dudes. Get off your phone and start dancing ballet. I promise. It's more fun and it's better for you. Anyway, moving on to positivity. I found a quote which I really, really resonate with as a insane perfectionist, which is, just make it exist first. You can make it good later. I feel like this really applies to creative projects such as acting, writing, making content for social media, as well as healing and just life in general, because you can start your journey and you can think that there is a perfect time to start your journey, but there is no perfect time to start your journey. I think New Year's is a time for everyone to be like, okay, 1st of January, first day of my changed life. No, you can start whenever you want. You can change your life in the next 2 minutes. You can change your life in the next hour. Like, every Monday is a new week. Every like hour is a new hour. You know, there is no right time to start. So kind of just getting it done. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just making it exist. And then once you have the scaffolding, you can build the building. What is it with me and these philosophical analogies today? Anyway, moving on. I'm going to be combining the cucumber question with my alien updates section because they're very interlinked. I have been off the internet for a while, even since I filmed my last episode, which was literally like in the summer, at like the end of summer. So it's been a while, and things have changed even since the video where I was telling you about things that have changed. Does that make any sense? No. Well, it does in my head. Anyway, what's been going on in my life is kind of the main question. People have been asking, where are you? Have you relapsed? No, I have not relapsed. Things have been going really, really well. What is going on in my life? I am in drama school actively every single day. Ballet is going really, really well. What else has occurred? Oh, I'm working on some really cool collaborations with some really cool charities. I'm planning a lot of like intentional content. I would really like to do a lot more what I eat in a days and, you know, just days in the lives, as well as, you know, some good old body positivity and just showing you that it's okay to not be perfect, because nobody is perfect and your imperfections make you unique and make you who you are. So I would like to do loads of videos on that, but instead of just kind of like pumping them out for views and things, my New Year's resolution is to make things that I'm proud of. So I want to become a person who can sustainably, you know, create content that they love. So that's my goal. But yeah, let me know what you want to see from me in the future, be it podcast episodes or YouTube videos. I've got some vlogs coming that I still have not edited, but I promise I will. And for obviously Instagram reels and shorts and whatnot, all those like fun, fresh, fabulous things, I will always take your suggestions into consideration. I am so grateful for all of you. Thank you for existing. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for being here for me. The response on my comeback posts have been so lovely. I love you all so much. If you want to submit anything whatsoever, you can email me at catthecucumberofficial@gmail.com. Thank you so much for floating through this episode with me today, aliens. I love you all so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Toodles!